The balance between cooperation and competition. I think the big balance in life is to be assertive and to access your authentic self. You want to be able to do that while having a healthy connection and communication with others, right? It's always that push and pull of asserting yourself and dealing with others. And so when it comes to humans, I think there's always that balance, that push and pull between cooperation and competition. Cooperation is all about community, the feminine energy, the yin energy, the ability to receive and give freely. On the other hand, you have competition. And so this is more the quote-unquote masculine energy or the yang energy, the ability to go after what you want assertively. The problem is, oftentimes, we only focus on one or the other of these. And for a healthy individual, we need a healthy balance of both of these things. And I think most people generally have about 50-50 with 10% going on each side, right? You have cooperation, you have competition, and it's always that push and pull of the balance between the two. The problem though in life is that in the real world, most of the systems that we have set up lean towards competition. So capitalism without regulations says that really what capitalism does in that situation is winner takes all, right? It's survival of the fittest when it comes to capitalism. But in nature, survival of the fittest means the most ability to adapt, right? Like it's not about winner takes all, it's about your ability to adapt to the situation at hand. And that takes cooperation. So the world is out of balance, not necessarily because individuals are so skewed towards being out of balance, but because the systems that we have set up require so much competition just to be able to survive. The thought pattern in the world and with the systems that we have is that if I'm right, that means you're wrong, right? It doesn't mean I can be right and you can also be right. It means I'm right, you're wrong, I win, you lose. And that's the system that we've set up. Now, don't get me wrong, we do need some competition. But when one system is skewed towards all of it, all the benefits going towards competition, then cooperation becomes harder to achieve on a day-to-day basis. So when the majority of our systems say that competition is the way to win, the way to success, the way to get everything that you want, when we say that there are right ways and wrong ways to do things, then that in and of itself is going to breed a language of violence. Because if there's a right way and a wrong way and you do it wrong, then you are wrong and you should be punished, right? That's the language that we use. And if punishment is the language that we use, it's the view that we see the world in, then that's a language of violence. And this language of violence will end up in destruction, right? Because then it's always us versus them. And there's always a right way and a wrong way. And everyone then has their right and wrong ways. And what happens is you can no longer foster cooperation. This is how wars are fought. This is how disputes and laws are all about being right and wrong. And the problem is the people who get in power get to decide what is right and wrong. They get to rewrite the history of what is right and wrong. And when they do that, it becomes almost impossible to rebalance the world. It's always going to be out of balance. And that balance, again, is between cooperation and competition, that flow, that back and forth between those two energies. And I would say individually, most people, I think, have a balance of those two energies, of the yin and yang, of that cooperation and competition. But this week's videos are all focused on nonviolent communication. This, I believe, is the best technique to help with bringing that spirit of cooperation into our everyday life. Instead of the lens with which you view the world as competition, you can start to view the lens through cooperation. And although I think in life there will always be quote-unquote good and quote-unquote bad actors, people that are acting in bad faith, right? People that don't want to actually do what they want to do, they are just being manipulative. I do think that if you can practice and build the skills of nonviolent communication, you can start to see shifts in your personal life that come with amazing results. On the other hand, with people who actively don't want to understand or who literally can't see the world through a lens of cooperation, with people who don't share common interests, or if you don't practice the skills of nonviolent communication on a regular basis, it can feel very self-defeating, especially if the person that you're talking to has more quote unquote worldly power than you. If they are in a position of authority and you're trying to use nonviolent communication and have empathy and they just have no clue what that is, it can be very hard to see the benefits of using this. With that said, you are the only person that gets to decide whether or not you are living up to your values, the values that you want to bring to life, irrespective of what people are doing or saying otherwise, right? The key with all of this is that you always have a choice. You may not like the choices available to you, but you always have a choice, and therefore you get to choose how you want to act. Therefore, I do think that nonviolent communication is the language of cooperation, and I think that there are definitely better times to use nonviolent communication, which is what the next video is about. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.